deepening conversation. David, now let's look at a short conversation between me and Megan. This conversation is a great example of deepening and goes through the deepening structure we've been teaching you. I start by asking Megan about her job, and the conversation unfolds nicely from there. David: what do you do in your life that really inspires you? Megan: it's really important to me to have jobs that inspire me. For years I had a job that I just loved. I was in charge of a small town chamber of commerce, and they thrived on tourism. I had a ball working there, coming up with new ideas and promoting the town. David: it sounds like there were a lot of moments in that job where you really felt like you were doing what you were put on earth to do. Megan: yes, I constantly felt like I was doing my life's work. When I had a new idea, everyone got behind it and implemented it. Sometimes the job was really difficult. Sometimes the people in the community were hard to work with, or there would be unexpected problems. In the end, however, when each project was over, everyone was always happy, and I was responsible for all the success. David: that's a great feeling when you have finished a big project. It's wonderful to look at all the work that you did behind the scenes, the things that no one will even know you did, and see what an accomplishment it is to complete such a great project. Megan: all those nights I would be up late, counting things or putting packets together, I always felt like it was all worth it in the end. David: that is really great. Ron: let's jump in here. Your thoughts, David? David: when you're just getting to know a woman, it often makes sense to talk about soft and gentle subjects, and then later build into heavier, more romantic talk. We want to reiterate that deepening conversations are all about creating a connection with a woman that has her feel like you see something in her that most people do not see. Being able to see things in a woman that most men don't see creates an emotional connection. With Megan, I wanted to focus on talking about her job and on getting to know her as a way to start the bonding process. Excerpt 50, Deepening Conversation 6, Deepening Conversation 6. In this conversation, look at how Ron keeps deepening the conversation with Terry. Ron gets away with being very direct with Terry, depending on your personality. Being silly, obnoxious, and sort of pushy with women might work. What makes this example with Ron work is that he is playful with Terry, but only acts silly in the context of rapport building. He continues to ask her questions about what's important to her and what she's passionate about. You can get away with being a bad boy when you combine making a connection, being respectful, having fun, and pushing the limits all at once. When you only joke around and only act obnoxiously, a woman will not connect with you. Ron: what are you passionate about in your life? Terry: music is one thing I really like. I recently started singing and I'm also learning how to play the guitar. Ron: that's great. I love the guitar and I've been playing for a long time. I don't meet many women who are aspiring guitar pros. Terry: I just love music. A friend of mine is a guitar player and wanted me to start learning so we could play together. I thought the guitar might be more fun than the drums. Ron: I play guitar, so I know what that is like when you are playing and you get lost in the music and you feel like this is great and you lose yourself for a few moments in the music. Terry: yes, I know what it feels like to lose myself in music. I have a question for you. Did you sing with other people when you were playing? Ron: yeah, I played in bands for a long time. I was also a touring musician for a few years. David: I want to jump in here for a moment and look at how Ron quickly went from talking about music to talking about the moment, where you are playing music and getting lost in the process. He is looking for moments where Terry feels passionate. He is taking what she's talking about, which is music, and looking for ways to feed it back to her in a romantic manner. Let's go back and read more. Ron: the act of playing music is a lot of fun. You know the feeling of getting lost in music and being able to spontaneously create something really beautiful? Terry: yeah, I have written some songs and it's fun. Ron: that's great that you've been able to write music. David: let's break in here again for a second. Ron talks about getting lost in music, and she does not really answer, so he goes back and tries to ask her a similar question. Ron displays tenacity in that he has to keep guiding the conversation into romantic spaces no matter how Terry replies. When you are having deepening conversations, it's important that you keep guiding a woman toward passionate conversations and passionate topics. Eventually, you'll either successfully turn the conversation to something she's passionate about, or you'll probably want to stop talking to her. Let's look at some more. Ron: that's great that you've been able to write music. Terry: I really enjoy writing music, and I'm focused much more on music these days than on my job. Music just really juices me up these days. Ron: do you go see live music a lot? Terry: I don't see many live bands right now. I've mostly been focusing on learning how to play the guitar and also on creating my own music. I've been really unhappy with my job these days, but music has been really fun. Ron: all right, set the mood for me. Let's say you invite me over to listen to you sing and play guitar. Let's say you invite me over for a private listening party. What would the mood of it be? What's the experience like for you when you are sitting there listening to music that you love? David: let's jump in. How is this conversation going for you at this point, Ron? Ron: at this point, I am trying to make the big shift into asking for her phone number and/or asking for the date. We've talked about music, and I feel like our rapport is pretty good. So now I want to try to test her and see how receptive she is to the idea of me coming over to her place. If she's unreceptive, I will go back in and do more deepening. And if she's open, I will ask for the number. Another advantage of testing Terry by asking how she'd feel to have me over to her place is that it takes the conversation to a much deeper area. David: another thing Ron did in that segment of the conversation was to avoid the trap of asking her why her job sucks. Many of us fall into the trap of trying to be compassionate men and caring by asking her about work problems. Having a woman talk about areas of her life that are not going well is generally a bad idea. It is a way to kill a seduction. Luckily, Ron avoids that trap and starts looking at what it would be like for Terry to have him over to her house. This is where he starts pushing the limits are on. I wanted to ask her a playful and silly question so that if she didn't want to go out with me, my comments would sound like a joke. At the same time, if she is interested in me, she knows that I am interested in going out with her. I like testing women in a humorous manner because I learn a lot about where I should take the conversation next. Let's listen to Terry's answer. Terry: my choice in music really changes a lot. If I am playing guitar and singing, then it's probably folksy, acoustic music, nothing fancy. That's the style of music I like playing the most. Ron: okay, let's set the scene again. You've invited me to your place and you are serenading me, and I am watching you closely. That sounds wonderful. Terry: are you going to sing along? Ron: not at this second, but I would if I was with you at your place. Terry: do you know harmony? Can you sing harmony? With me? Ron: sure, that'd be great. Terry: can you help me operate my 4-track recorder? I haven't figured out how to use it, and I'd like to record myself singing some of the songs I've written. Are you good with recording equipment? Ron: I've done quite a bit of recording and would have fun playing around with your 4-track machine. I could come over and help you if you want me to. David: as you can see, Ron was working to nail down a date with her. He said, I could come over and help you if you want me to. It seems like their conversation is heading towards a date, and Terry seems receptive to going out with him. She's asking Ron if he can sing harmony, and she's wondering if he knows how to use recording equipment. All good signs. You can also see that he's not acting like a friend. There's a romantic feel about the conversation. In the next chapter, we'll look at several more conversations and learn advanced deepening skills. But let's go over what you've learned so far. Excerpt 51. Recap of deepening rules. Recap of rules for successful deepening conversations. Focus on what a woman is passionate about. The purpose of deepening is to look for areas in a woman's life where she feels passion and feed it back to her. You are validating aspects of her life that most people do not see or acknowledge. When you show a woman that she's special, she will feel appreciative and bond with you. Pay attention to details. Pay attention to the details of what the woman is saying, and look for ways to feed back those details to her in a romantic way. Avoid the deepening trap. As we mentioned before, when you are asking a woman deepening questions, sometimes she'll mention negative aspects of her life. It's important to avoid topics that she is upset about. When bad things come up, redirect the conversation to what is working in her life and what she's most interested in. Always include the romantic moves, as we also said before, to ensure that you come across as a romantic possibility. You need to use the romantic moves. If you hold eye contact too long, make decisions quickly and easily, wink at a woman, check out her body, compliment a woman, keep your body powerful, and whisper to her, your chances of having a successful, deepening conversation are greatly increased. This is only a test. In these examples, you can see how Ron and David were testing the woman's attraction and receptivity by using the deepening conversational structure to push things a little. You should do this too. Excerpt 52. How to start deepening conversations. The 2 best deepening questions. A good way to start a deepening conversation is to ask a woman what she does for a living. This is a low-pressure question and most women will feel comfortable answering it. David's deepening question. I know that in every kind of job or career there are parts of it that kind of suck, and other moments are really stellar where you really feel like this is what you were put on this earth to do. You know those moments where you reach the peak, where you feel totally turned on? I would be curious to know if you would care to share. What are some of those moments for you? Another simple question to ask a woman is, what are you most passionate about in your life? Excerpt 53. Conclusion on deepening conclusion. Here are 2 things you can do to start using this skill in your interactions with women. Look for opportunities to have deepening conversations and start asking some of the deepening questions. Start to ask, what do you do for a living? And what is it that you find really touches your heart? I know some moments are really difficult, but there are these moments where you feel like you were put here on earth to do that thing. What are those moments for you? Experiment and start having deepening conversations. Excerpt 54. Advanced Deepening. Introduction. Chapter Advanced Deepening. In this chapter, we'll continue to provide examples of deepening conversations. We'll also include several advanced deepening skills. By the end of this chapter, you'll be crystal clear on how to initiate and manage deepening conversations. In the next chapter, we'll show you how to move from deepening conversations to romantic conversations. In this chapter, you will get a much clearer sense of how to move from deepening conversations to asking for phone numbers and how to take the seduction to the next level. Here's a preview of the advanced deepening skills you're going to learn in this chapter. Why deepening conversations with women sometimes fail. How to include yourself when describing scenes to a woman. How and why you must assume rapport. The importance of having fun when talking to women. How to ask open-ended questions. How to evoke information that a woman would never share with a stranger. How to use deepening conversations to create a connection. how to use deepening to admire women, how to ask women about great moments in their lives, how to use advanced deepening questions like, what are you most passionate about? And what are the postcard moments that you will remember for the rest of your life? Why you should avoid pushing a woman during deepening conversation, the importance of you statements, how to take on a you point of view, why you must shut up and listen, how deepening is like fishing, what to do if women turn the tables on you, how deepening conversations can lead to touching or kissing, how asking, what's the best part of it, can often save the day. So here we go, lights, camera, more, deepening, excerpt, 55, deepening conversation. One with Sue, deepening conversation. Aaron, this is a conversation with Sue. Note how I go from asking her what she's passionate about to moving the conversation into a romantic and sexy direction. This conversation is a good example of how quickly you can move from simple deepening questions to romantic talk. Ron, Sue, what is it that you are passionate about? You mentioned earlier that you are interested in art and also into being a biker babe, but I am curious about your other interests. What else are you passionate about in your life? Sue, I have to go back to the arts because that is my favorite thing. I like to go to art openings, art shows, and I am a very progressive person. I like all kinds of art, but especially modern art. I like being creative and I like creative people. I also enjoy live music and have a wide range of musical interests from classical to jazz and blues. Ron, I'm a big music fan too. Do you frequently go see live music? Sue, I go to as many concerts as I can. Ron, would going to a concert be something you'd consider a fun date? David, let's jump in here. Sue gave Ron a lot of information, and he instantly moved in a romantic direction with that last question. He is learning information about her interests and planting the idea in her head that they might go on a date. He is also assuming rapport, which is really crucial. I am assuming that she's into talking to me and into being with me. It's crucial to assume the best when you're with a woman. Many of our students are so used to having conversations with women go poorly that they always assume the worst. When you assume a woman doesn't like you and is not enjoying being with you, you come across as awkward and uncomfortable. When you're talking to a woman, do your best to assume rapport, and your confidence will show. In deepening, we're looking at what a woman is passionate about and interested in. So early on, I am focused on finding out Sue's interests and passions. It is obvious that she is into art, creativity, music, so I want to connect those topics to me. Sue seems very open and flirtatious, and there is a lot of eye contact, so I want to bring up romantic topics right away. Many of our students wait too long before pushing conversations in a romantic direction. Our students often think they need to wait until the end of a conversation to bring up romantic topics, but it's often better to bring up romantic topics early on. If there is a space to ask romantic questions, go for it. To turn up the romance with Sue, I asked her what a great date would look like to her. I wanted to ask her questions that create openings for me to ask her out. I also wanted to ask her questions that would quickly show me whether or not she'd be open to going out with me. Excerpt 56. The 4-step process for advanced deepening. The 4-step process for advanced deepening. Instead of describing a great concert or a wonderful piece of art, in advanced deepening, you describe a situation where you and she are together at a concert or an art museum. Instead of describing a fun art gallery or museum, you describe a scene where both of you are at an art gallery or museum looking at art. Instead of describing a romantic candlelit dinner, you describe a romantic dinner where the two of you are drinking wine and having a great time. When you describe romantic scenes with the two of you, it's just one more way for her to start imagining you as a potential lover. The process goes like this. Pick a situation you want to describe, such as a fun date, a great trip, a vacation, or a concert. Imagine that you are describing her in that situation and add details to the scene to make it more intimate. If you learn that she's into art, you could ask yourself, what about being in an art gallery would make it more intimate? Perhaps you imagine drinking wine at an art opening and getting lost in a conversation. Maybe you imagine looking at the art and appreciating its beauty. Maybe you imagine it's an elegant art opening and everyone looks so beautiful and you just look at each other and smile and feel so happy. Whatever the scene, you add intimate details, put yourself in the scene. The imaginary scene would feature the two of you at an elegant art opening, both looking great and really having a fun time. Or maybe both of you are drinking wine at an art opening and having a fun time laughing and smiling at each other and laughing at all the pretentious people. Or maybe both of you are staring at the beautiful art on the walls and getting lost in it together. Now describe this scene to the woman. Yes, you eventually have to take the risk to talk. You need to open your mouth and create some of these situations when talking to the woman you are with. After you have some clues about the things a woman is interested in, we recommend you follow this 4-step sequence a few times during each deepening conversation. Let me know if you'd like me to continue with the rest of the advanced deepening chapter. Continue excerpt 57. Deepening conversation. Continued deepening conversation 1 continued. When we left off with this chat, Ron had just asked if Sue thought going to a concert would be a fun date. Sue: I'd enjoy going to a concert. I'd even enjoy just going to a bar and listening to some live blues. Nothing is more fun than having fun, drinking and dancing your feet off. Ron: Well, what about going on rides on the back of a Harley? Sue: I think that would be great too. I'm an adventurous person and I love bikes. So my idea of a good time would be to just get in the car or get on a bike if it is a nice night and just head out somewhere and maybe just go all night and fall asleep where we end up. Maybe just sleep outside under the stars. I think that would be so much fun. David: Let's jump in. How is this going? Ron: I am getting a lot of useful information from Sue. I am asking questions and getting information on where to possibly take her on a date. I'm also asking her questions that will have her think of going out with me. Lastly, I am having fun talking to her. Having fun when talking to a woman is really important. If a conversation is not fun, it's often a sign that the woman is not interested in you. Whenever you're not having fun, it's important to ask yourself, what's not working? Are you nervous? Are you trying too hard to get into her pants? Is she boring you so badly you want to leave? What's going on in your mind and what can you do that second to start having fun? Having fun, being sexy, being interested, and being interesting all work together. Let's listen in some more. Ron: You've convinced me. I am ready to take you out and we leave tonight. It's our secret operation. Sue laughs: I want to explore the whole world, which is my passion. I have a goal to travel around the world before I die. Ron: Where have you traveled? I don't meet a lot of women who really go for what they want. I meet a lot of women who want to go for it, but most don't have the guts to go out and really do it. Sue: I have been to Europe and Mexico, but I really want to go to Asia and Australia. The next trip I am planning is to visit Asia. David, let's jump in again. Is there anything you want to say, Ron? Ron: I was feeling closer and closer to asking her out. I was happy with the pace and depth of the conversation. Sue seemed to be having a good time talking to me, and we were bonding. I used humor to connect with her. Turning a date into a secret operation made it more fun and exciting. I took the conversation into a different direction, and in the process, we both had fun. Women like to go on adventures, and they like it when you can be playful. When you can create dates that are adventures, you'll come across as seductive, romantic, and fun. Excerpt 58, Deepening Conversation with Laura. Deepening conversation. In this conversation, David uses the deepening questions you've been learning. We want to warn you ahead of time that Laura is an odd woman, but very attractive. She talks about wanting to simplify her life and at times comes across like a survivalist. Are there a lot of weird women out there? Yes. Are there women who are interested in topics you find stupid, boring, and insane? Yes. Are there women who will say things and give opinions you strongly disagree with? Yes. So it's important that we include some women in this book who are a bit odd and off-kilter, since you're likely to encounter them in your own dating life. In talking to random women, you will encounter women who seem odd to you. We all encounter women who say unusual things. Our task is to decide if they're worth pursuing. If so, we need to stop focusing on the unusual aspects of their personalities. Once you're pursuing a woman, harboring negative judgments about her tend to get in the way of a successful seduction. Once you're in a relationship, you need to ignore the aspects of a woman's personality that bother you. It's called coping with the harsh reality. David: Hi Laura, nice to see you. I'm curious. What is your job? Laura: I owns a small hotel, but I am getting out of the hotel business to simplify my life. I also own a computer consulting company. David: Simplifying your life is such an important thing. I would guess that you are someone who values trying to simplify things when everything seems complex. Is that true? Laura: Absolutely, I keep working at it and always try to simplify things for myself. David: What does your vision of a simple life look like? Laura: Just a simple house in the country and not having to work much. David: That sounds nice and much more laid back. Let's jump in. How's this conversation going for you, David? David: At the beginning, I asked her what else she would like to do in business. I wanted to throw a wide net so she wouldn't feel cornered by my questions. You want to ask women open-ended questions and give them the room to respond how they want. Since Laura mentioned that she was simplifying her life, I asked her about it. In the back of my mind, I was looking for something she's passionate about, and I kept asking questions until she gave me something to work with. Laura: I really am turned on by the idea of living in the country, being pretty self-sufficient, and just being able to do whatever I want to do. David: So you really value self-sufficiency, doing what you want to do and taking it easy? Laura: Yes, I do. I want to take a break from the rat race. David: That would be a reason to start your own business too, to create something you would be able to sell and to do exactly what you want to do. That's cool. I don't get to meet women every day that are so direct in their lives. It sounds great to live somewhere beautiful and be able to sit in the sun and have a good time. David: Let's jump in again. In the last section, I spent a lot of time validating her desire to live in a secluded area and simplify her life. I want her to be admired. In feeding back to her the qualities she values, I'm seeing parts of her that most people overlook. I am taking notice of what is special to her and what is special about her. I am also listening intently to what she's saying. I am listening for useful information and concentrating on how I can turn what she's telling me into more deepening questions. Excerpt 59, Deepening Conversation with Heidi. Continued deepening conversation for continued. In the previous chapter, David talked to Heidi. Here's the conclusion of their conversation. In this example, David uses deepening to get Heidi's phone number. David: How long have you been writing? Heidi: I've always enjoyed writing. In fact, my mum has these funny little books that I wrote when I was a kid, which she held on to. It is really hilarious looking at them. David: What was one of your books about? Heidi: One of them was about my cat Snowball. David: Your cat Snowball? Heidi: Yes, it was a book full of little illustrations. It's pretty funny to look at. David: I'd like to hear about it. Heidi: It's made out of construction paper, and each page has another little fact about my cat. I was probably 5 when I made it. Later, when I was 7 or so, I came out with a bigger book about unicorns. David: wow, that's so cool. That's a really sweet childhood image. Do you feel that now you're able to tap into that little kid energy when you are creating stuff and writing? Heidi: I tap into it sometimes. I can feel it when I am writing for myself, but not usually when I am writing for work. I find myself being able to be free when I am not writing under the pressure of a deadline. David: would you say that you get those moments where you feel like a little girl again? You know, just letting it all go and feeling happy and carefree? Heidi: yes, definitely. Ron: let's break in here again and dissect what David's done so far. Tell us what you're thinking at this point in the conversation. David: well, I knew from my previous conversation with Heidi that she works as a writer. So I asked her about the writing, then she told me about the books she wrote as a kid. I admired Heidi for writing those little books. When she talks about her current writing, I ask her about tapping into that little kid energy. I am trying to focus the conversation on feelings that are open, receptive, and sweet. I'm bringing up images of feeling free and happy, like a little kid. You should focus on asking women about the best moments in their lives, both past and present. When Heidi told me about the books she wrote as a kid, I said, wow, that's so cool. She was sharing something from her heart there, something kind of intimate. Heidi was sharing something with me that she would not necessarily share with a stranger, so I wanted to validate her for sharing those things with me. Heidi: I wish I could incorporate those feelings of freedom and wonder more into my professional work. Sometimes I can, but it's really fun to let that side out. David: you seem like a really interesting woman. It's really great that you're doing things in life that you're turned on by. I'm curious to know what you're most passionate about in your writing. Do you have those moments like, wow, this is what I was put here to do, and you feel like the writing is coming through you? Heidi: yes, I go through periods like that. I feel that way when I'm not thinking about the final product, not thinking about what I need to do. I feel really happy when I'm able to just enjoy the process, when I can let go and enjoy writing. Those are also moments where I think, wow, I am getting paid to do this. It's such a fun thing for me. Then there are times when I have writer's block and I just can't write at all, and I have a complete lack of faith in my writing. Sometimes there are weeks when I just dread writing. As you can see, David is using standard deepening questions with Heidi. He is also digging into what she's passionate about at a deeper level. Since he knows she's a writer, he is asking himself what could be moments in her life where writing feels the best. He then asks her what it's like when writing seems to flow, and he asks her to describe those feelings to him. Asking a woman, what are you most passionate about, is a classic deepening question. It's one of those phrases you can use over and over in deepening. Whenever you can find a way to use that question, you'll bring the conversation to a deeper level and build more intimacy. One lesson to learn from this example is to avoid going into negative spaces with a woman, as we saw in the previous chapter. Heidi began talking about writer's block, which is really a bad feeling. Instead of talking more about writer's block and trying to console her, David simply redirected her attention. It's utter suicide to try to fix a woman's problems. Our suggestion is to redirect her attention. When Bob the bad seducer is with a woman and she mentions problem, he immediately asks her to describe the problem in great detail. Oh, writer's block sounds terrible. Tell me more about it. Wow, that sounds like absolute torture. How often does it happen to you? I heard about a writer who had writer's block and she had to be put into a psych ward. Do you think that would ever happen to you? Bob stupidly thinks that if he acts sympathetically enough and allows a woman to share her deepest pain with him, then she will like him. Bob in fact alienates women by asking so many serious and intense questions that he comes across as a complete downer. By asking women to describe their pain in greater detail, Bob shoots himself in the foot and digs himself deeper into a hole that he can't get out of. Rather than have Heidi talk about what's not working in her life or how often she has writer's block, David changes the subject and asks her what else she likes to write about and if she writes poetry. When he asks her questions about what she likes in her life, he shows that he's interested in her, but he's not giving energy to the depressing things she's talking about. He is responding by guiding the conversation into a positive direction. Your job is to guide conversations into romantic and intimate spaces and avoid topics where a woman is likely to get depressed or feel pain. David, what gives you the most joy in writing? Heidi, I like to go to coffee shops and observe people. I love to eavesdrop on people. It's fun for me to just start writing about the person I'm observing and imagine that I know them. I start writing dialogue and imagining that I know what they're thinking. Sometimes my coffee shop writing turns into short stories. It's really fun for me to do that kind of writing. It's just something silly I enjoy. David, that's interesting, Heidi. I don't get to meet a lot of women who are that creative. It's fun to hear about your writing. Heidi, thanks. I love that kind of writing. I really enjoy observing people and learn a lot from watching people. David, are you observing me right now? Heidi, no, not at all. David, now I'm scared. Jokingly, Heidi, I write some poetry, but I've never had any published. I don't usually share my poetry with people. It's just a private thing. David, maybe if we get to know each other better, a time will come when you will want to share some poetry with me. I understand maybe now is not the right time to share it. Do you write poetry? David, no, I don't. I am more of a non-fiction writer, but I know what it's like to be in the flow like you were talking about earlier, where you feel like the words are just flowing through you and it feels like you're in the dance of writing. Those are moments when you feel like you reach beyond what you're normally able to reach and you come up with material that is better than who you know yourself to be. Heidi, yes, I know that feeling very well. David, an important part of my life is having work situations and friends in my life that bring out the better me and help me see myself in a new, better light. Having those people around makes life more fun and exciting. Heidi, I really like writing, and you just made me think about how cool it is to be able to write something and allow someone else to see something briefly through your eyes and just know what it is like to be you just for a second. Ron, let's interrupt for a second and examine David's conversation with Heidi. The conversation started off playful and easy, and now it's getting much more intimate and intense. David's doing a good job having a heart-to-heart talk with Heidi. David, I started out that section affirming her. I told her I don't get to meet a lot of women who are as creative as she is. Ron, but you are also joking around, making some funny comments. You're teasing her, and that seems to be a good way to go with Heidi. She seems receptive to you and wouldn't be revealing so much about herself unless she felt comfortable with you. David, humor is part of the bonding process. When Heidi tells me that she likes to observe people, I say, "Are you observing me?" I also said, "Maybe if we get to know each other better, a time will come when you will want to share some poetry with me." I didn't push her real hard to show me her poetry. I just wanted to bring up the topic of going out with me in a fun, half-joking way. One thing to notice is that Ron and I use a lot of you statements. In the most evocative visualizations, the person talking does his best to include the listener in the situation he is describing. For example, you see yourself walking down the stairs. You see the things around you. You feel this. All of these examples use you to create clearer images. It's very useful to describe things from a you point of view. Talking to women is all about getting them to feel things, visualize things, and imagine things. That's why utilizing the you perspective in your speaking is so important.
If you are describing how great it feels to be in the flow of writing, you might say, I feel so good when I am there, and the energy is just flowing through me, and the words are just flowing through me. It's a lot more powerful to say, it feels so good when you are there and you are writing and the words are just flowing through you and you feel so connected to something larger than yourself. Do you know what I mean? I was just describing that feeling as if she is having it. My hope is that when I use statements, she'll say to herself, it's amazing that I am with this guy who understands that. Ron, I want to point out that in the previous conversation, Heidi is talking more than David. David is shutting up long enough to listen to what she's saying. He's then taking his time to construct a response that is either a bonding visualization or a question that pulls
the conversation into a more intimate space. Earlier in this book, we talked about the power of describing romantic scenes and situations to women. We told you that what you describe to a woman is what she will feel. When you describe romantic scenes, a woman has to go inside herself and experience those feelings. A new way to apply the principle of describing feelings is to ask a woman romantic questions. When a woman answers romantic questions and describes a romantic situation to you, she'll experience it while describing it to you. For example, if you ask a woman about her dream vacation and she describes it to you, she will have to go into her imagination and experience it. Whether you describe romantic scenes to a woman or you ask romantic questions that invoke a romantic response from a woman, the result is the same. She experiences romantic feelings. Let's go back and read more of the conversation. David, I would like to know more about you. Maybe I could read some of your
writing sometime. What would it be like if we got together for a cup of coffee sometime and just talked more about writing and got to know each other a little better? Heidi. That would be great. I'd really enjoy that. David. I tell you what, give me your email address or phone number and we can set that up. Heidi. Sure, that sounds great. Excerpt 60, Deepening Conversation with Katie. Deepening Conversation 5. RUN. Hi, Katie. Great to see you. Katie. You too. How are you? Ron. I'm doing great today. Your ring caught my attention. It looks really interesting. What's the story behind it? Katie. Well, actually, I got it when I was traveling. I was backpacking through Bangladesh and there was someone selling jewelry. And this ring is actually a Celtic symbol. It looked really cool, so I bought it. Ron. Bangladesh. What were you doing in Bangladesh? David. I want to point out that Ron effectively used the question, what's the story behind that, to open up the
conversation with Katie and then proceeded into deepening questions. This shows how what's the story behind that can naturally lead into deepening conversations and then romantic conversations. We want you to keep an eye on how all the conversational modes you're learning in this book all fit together. Ron. What made you decide to go to Bangladesh? What did you do there? Katie. I just wanted to visit a place far away in a totally different culture. I wanted to go on a challenging journey that was different from my normal life. Yeah, to Ron. Wow, that is really brave, Katie. Katie. It was really fun and exciting. It was one of the most intense trips of my life. Ron. I don't get to meet women very often who have taken on life at that kind of level. It's really cool that you went there. How long were you in Bangladesh? Katie. I was there for about 3 months. Ron. Wow, 3 months in Bangladesh? That's a long time. You also said that you have a Celtic ring? Katie. It's a Celtic symbol of an eternal knot. Ron. An eternal knot? Let me see that for a second. He reaches over and touches the ring. This is a cool ring. Where else do you like to travel? David. Let's jump in for a second. When you're talking to a woman, it's helpful to be on the lookout for openings to touch her hand or her jewelry. Touching a woman in non-intrusive ways is great in building up to asking for a date. Ron seizes the opportunity to make things more physical with Katie by touching her ring? Ron, I mentioned that I thought Katie was brave for going to Bangladesh. This compliment was a way to validate her life. Another example of validating her is when I said, I don't get to meet many women who have lived like that. An important aspect of deepening is asking questions to find out what a woman values. From there, the next step is admiring what she values and feeding it back to her. Katie, do you like to travel? Ron, yes, I do, although I rarely go places as unusual as Bangladesh. It's amazing when you travel. You get to see new things and experience a new culture. When you travel, you get to let different parts of yourself come out. Do you know what I mean? Katie, yes, that's one of the main reasons I love to see new places. Ron, I would be interested to know what part of your trip touched your heart the most. Katie, the way people were welcoming to me and let me into their homes. It is not something that you see every day. My favorite part of the trip was meeting new people. I made a lot of special connections. Ron, did you have any experiences that kind of just stick in your heart? Do you recall experiences that are postcard moments that you'll remember for the rest of your life? I'd be curious to know if you had experiences and moments like that. David, let's jump in. What's interesting to me in this conversation is that Ron is taking this seemingly mundane conversation that has nothing romantic in it and progressively taking it to deeper levels of rapport building. Ron and Katie have a connection building. She is starting to trust him, and he is listening and feeding back the positive things she is saying. By listening and feeding back what he hears, Ron is showing his interest in Katie. Ron, Katie started asking me questions, but opening conversations with women are more about how you make them feel, not about your showing off. So I tried to avoid talking about myself and instead focused on feeding back to Katie the positive feelings of traveling. Next, I asked additional deepening questions to get her talking more about traveling. I asked Katie, when you are traveling, what touches your heart the most? Then I asked her, what are the postcard moments that you will remember the most of your life? These are deepening questions you might want to use when you talk to women. Katie, well, it's not something I care to think about often, but there was a really bad storm and there was a
mudslide that we somehow escaped. That part of the trip sticks out in my mind, Ron. Was there a good part to that crisis? Like feeling that you have a deeper appreciation for life? What was the most positive thing you walked away from that experience feeling? David, let's jump in again. We've seen conversations move into negative directions before. We told you that it's important to redirect conversations into more positive topics. When Katie mentioned she was stuck in a mudslide, the conversation could have become depressing and unpleasant. Ron was able to gently move the conversation to a different topic and keep focused on building his rapport with Katie. Ron, I noticed that Katie was running the horrible scene of barely escaping a mudslide in her mind. I didn't want her to feel the bad feelings associated with that experience, so I took the conversation in a different direction. I wasn't sure what to say to her, but I came back with, was there a good part to that
crisis? I knew I had to move quickly and come up with something to guide the conversation onto a different topic. David, if you had let Katie keep talking about the mudslide, it could have become depressing. She might have said, kids died in that mudslide, so it's great that Ron interrupted her. Women don't always talk about upbeat subjects, so you need to learn how to turn negative topics into positive ones. You can handle negative topics by asking any of the following questions. What was the best part of it? Was there a positive part in all of it? What did you learn from that experience? How has that experience changed you? Katie, surviving the mudslide made me appreciate life a lot more. At the same time, I felt proud of myself for surviving such a scary experience and challenging myself. I really like pushing myself and putting myself out there. I'm glad I had such an intense experience in Bangladesh. Ron, I can see in talking with you that you really push yourself and live life on the edge. It seems like you're someone who is strong in the face of uncertainty. I really admire how you live life fully. Ron. One thing I noticed in talking to Katie is that she pushes herself to try new things and is really courageous and adventurous. In deepening, I am looking for what she is passionate about and what she values, so I wanted to let her know that I see her as a gutsy woman. I also complimented her in a way that was deeply personal and intimate. Let's look at some more. Ron, I know exactly how it feels to really push yourself and really go for what you want. Like when you meet someone you can connect with, or you feel like they open their heart to you in a certain way. There is something really special about being open like that. I don't think we get enough of those moments in our lives. Katie, being in Bangladesh and having people be so kind to me made me want to be more open to people in my everyday life. I try to be friendly when I am out at the grocery store doing little tasks and errands that seem mundane. Ron, it's been great to meet you, but I need to run in a second. Maybe we could get together for a cup of coffee sometime and talk some more. Katie, sure, that would be great. Maybe you could tell me about your travel experiences, Ron. What is your phone number and email address? It would be great to go out sometime this week. Katie, here I'll write down my number and email. Ron, when Katie mentioned that she tries to be friendly when she's out shopping and running errands, I thought that was a good segue to asking her out. I wanted to end the conversation on a high point. I thought that if she wasn't willing to go out with me after talking for so long, it was unlikely that she'd give me her number if we talked any longer. Here's a good phrase to use when asking a woman for her number. It's been nice talking to you. Perhaps we can get together sometime and talk about this some more. You don't need anything fancy or special. You don't need a perfect line. You just need to open your mouth and ask her out. After you have her phone number or email address, you can set up the coffee date. Excerpt 61. Summary of Advanced Deepening Skills. Summary of Advanced Deepening Skills. Let's recap what we've learned in this chapter. Conversations with women sometimes fail. Deepening conversations don't always go well. There is no magical formula to have successful conversations with women 100% of the time. Sometimes the conversation goes well and sometimes you flat on your face. When bad luck seducer Bob has deepening conversations that go poorly, he's shocked. I did what Louis and Copeland said in that damn book, and the one woman I talked to didn't want to make out with me. Those guys are jerks. I want my money back. Bob fails to realize that most conversations with women will not lead to getting a phone number, let alone sex. Bob's so focused on finding a magical solution to getting women to date him that he forgets that talking to women is a numbers game and work. Instead of talking to several women until one is interested in talking to him, Bob would rather blame everyone else and complain. The trick in talking to women is to be persistent. When one conversation goes poorly, move on and talk to another woman. When a conversation goes poorly, just chalk it up to experience. If you are persistent and talk to dozens of women, you'll eventually have successful, deepening conversations. After a few successful, deepening conversations, you'll get a phone number and things will keep progressing from there. If you are willing to do the work and be patient, success is inevitable. Include yourself when describing scenes. In deepening, you are creating romantic images through descriptions of romantic scenes. In advanced deepening, you are describing scenes where you and your conversational partner are together in the scene. For instance, instead of describing a great concert, describe a situation where you and she are at a concert together having a wonderful time. When you describe romantic scenes with the two of you, a woman will have to go inside and imagine that picture of the two of you together. By describing scenes to a woman, you increase your chances of getting her number. You'll also improve your chances of having her see you as a romantic possibility. We realize that including yourself when describing scenes to women can be confusing. It's a new skill that you need to practice. Try writing out potential conversations and practice asking questions out loud at home. The more practice you have, the easier it will be to include yourself in scenes when you have a woman in front of you. Assume rapport. By this, we mean that when you're talking to a woman, you should assume she is enjoying talking to you and being with you. When a salesman assumes rapport, he assumes that his prospective customer likes him, is interested in what he's selling, has similar values and trusts him. It's crucial to assume the best when you're with a woman. Bob assumes that every woman he talks to will hate him and that every interaction will go poorly. When he talks to women and asks deepening questions, his certainty that the interaction will go poorly comes across in his tone of voice and his presence. Because Bob is so certain his conversations will go poorly, he comes across as angry and mean. You can teach yourself to assume rapport by reminding yourself that women are interested in talking to you and find you attractive. You can tell yourself that the interaction is going well. When you assume women like you will not only feel more confident and more relaxed, you will also be more romantic, easygoing, and likable. Assuming rapport is crucial in talking to women. Ask open-ended questions. We've mentioned the importance of asking open-ended questions before. You need to cast the widest net possible when talking to women. The goal is to create a space for women to feel comfortable and relaxed talking to you. Bob is a master of asking questions so that women feel trapped. Here's an example of Bob's attempt at deepening. Bob: Hi, did you see the new John Travolta movie? Woman: No, I haven't. Did you? Bob: So you didn't see that movie? Why not? Is it because you don't like movies, or is it because you don't like John Travolta? Woman: Oh, I just haven't seen a movie in a few months. I've been working a lot. Did you see the movie? Bob: Oh, so you must really hate your job since you have to work so much. I hate jobs where they force you to work overtime and don't pay you. Woman: Oh, I must go now. Bye. Bob asks closed, yes or no questions that have an accusatory feel to them rather than open-ended questions that encourage a woman to talk. Bob not only asks yes or no questions, he argues with the woman's response, rather than encouraging her to talk. Don't box women into answering yes or no questions or questions that limit their options. Ask open-ended questions so that larger conversations can develop. Fun, fun, fun. What's more romantic? To a woman, a man who is stressed, nervous and uptight, or someone who is relaxed, playful and having fun? The answer is clear. Men who are able to enjoy themselves are much more attractive than guys who are uptight and worried. Women's bullshit detectors are much more attuned than our men's. Women know when you're not interested in talking to them, when you're nervous, and when you're not having fun. So we strongly recommend you find fun ways to make conversations with women fun. Bring up topics that are enjoyable for you. Mention things you find funny. Ask questions you're curious about. Have a good time. Talking to women should not be an ordeal. When Bob talks to women, he's constantly preoccupied with asking the perfect question. He is so caught up with his own thoughts and concerns that talking to a woman is a stressful, horrible affair. Bob is too afraid to take any risks, and so he falls deeper into a fear spiral. He is too afraid to share anything about himself, mention anything he considers funny, or ask any questions that are romantic. His fear creates a situation that is unpleasant for both himself and the woman. Here are some surefire ways to not have fun when you're with a woman. Trying to be perfect. Asking questions that you don't care anything about. Never sharing anything about yourself. Not taking any romantic risks. Worrying that you're doing everything wrong. Never smiling. solely focusing on getting into her pants, never cracking jokes, worrying that everything you say will offend her, solely focusing on having her not think you're trying to get into her pants. If you are able to let go, have fun, and take some risks with women, you'll be more relaxed and more fun to be around. Fun attracts more fun. Fear tends to create more fear. Don't be a stranger. When talking to women, be on the lookout for details she's sharing with you she wouldn't normally share with a stranger. These are details you want to acknowledge. Deepening conversations are all about creating a connection with a woman that makes her feel that you see something in her to which most people are not privy. When you are able to see things in her that most men don't see, intimacy is created. When you start creating emotional connections, she'll want to connect more deeply with you, admire her. You want to be the kind of guy who acknowledges women. Everyone feels good when they're acknowledged. When you admire a woman for her strengths or take notice of what is special to her and what is special about her, she'll feel closer to you. Ask about great moments in her life. In deepening, you are focusing on a woman's life and looking for special moments to acknowledge. You are looking for times in her life when she felt best, moments she's most proud of, her accomplishments and her passions. Ask women about great moments in their past and great moments in their current life. Two great questions to use are, what are you most passionate about? And what are the postcard moments that you will remember for the rest of your life? Don't push too hard. You do not need to push women into sexual or romantic talk. The purpose of deepening is often just to bond. Without the foundation of bonding, there is no hope of turning things sexual. If you skip this early work, you'll fail miserably later on. The goal of deepening is to create a bond, develop rapport, and lay the groundwork for asking for a number. Sometimes the conversation turns romantic, other times it's much lighter. In either case, the goal is to move from being a stranger to creating enough of a connection to take the next step. Some women are weird, wacky, and strange. We all encounter women who say unusual things. If she's worth pursuing, stop focusing on the unusual aspects of her personality. Once you are in a relationship, you need to ignore the aspects of a woman's personality that bother you. It's called coping with the harsh reality. The importance of you statements. The most evocative writing and visualizations strive to put the listener in the scene by using the word you. It's very useful to describe things from a you point of view. I think it's so great when you are having a perfect day and you can just breathe in and really feel good about what you've accomplished. Talking to women is all about getting them to feel things, visualize things, and imagine things. That's why using the you perspective in your speaking is so important. Taking on a you perspective might take some practice, but it's worth it. Do you understand? Women might turn the tables on you. Eventually, a woman will turn the tables on you and start asking questions about your life and passions. We recommend you reply with romantic and open-ended responses. You need to reveal details about yourself, but you can do so in a way that is not bragging or time-consuming or boring for the woman. When a woman asks Bob what he's passionate about in his life, he begins talking to her about his new flat-panel computer screen, the great screen resolution it has, and how the competitor's version sucks. Bob goes off on a 10-minute tangent on a topic the woman could care less about. Bad move. Just give a short response about yourself and then ask additional, deepening questions and refocus the conversation on her. Shut up and listen. When you're conducting deepening conversations, it's crucial that she talks more than you do. When you're having a deepening conversation, shut your pie hole while she answers your question. Don't interrupt a woman when she's talking. Instead, listen and take time to construct a response that is either a visualization based on what she's just told you or a question that evokes more information from her. When Bob conducts deepening conversations, he never shuts up. He interrupts the woman when she's talking about her favorite vacation and brags about his Alaskan cruise. Bob constantly interrupts women when they're telling him key information. Rather than listen, Bob enjoys offering his opinions on what a woman is telling him. When Jennifer told him about the best parts of her job, he lectured her on why she should quit her job and find a higher-paying profession. Bob can't contain his thoughts enough to create a bond with women. You need to shut up long enough for them to respond. A good rule of thumb is they should talk 70% of the time, you should talk 30% of the time. Talking to women is like fishing. If the first question you ask a woman doesn't elicit a juicy response, move on to another question. In deepening, you are fishing by asking questions and finding out what she's passionate about. Once you get a strong response from her, ask more questions and feed back more situations to her. Just like with fishing, you're patiently waiting for a bite. Once you get one, you quickly go for it and get her talking about what she's passionate about. Deepening conversations can lead to touching and more. When you can touch a woman as part of a deepening conversation, you are helping escalate the seduction. Most men wait until the end of a date before doing anything physical. During deepening conversations, however, there are often openings for touch. When asking a woman about her ring, for example, you could touch her hand. When sitting next to a woman, you could accidentally brush against her arm. When you touch a woman, do so gently and as unobtrusively as possible. If a woman reacts negatively, that is a sign to slow the seduction down. If a woman seems open to touching, it's a sign to go for the next level of touching or kissing. When the conversation goes downhill. Several times during this chapter, we mentioned how important it is to avoid talking about depressing topics. When a woman starts talking about bad experiences or depressing topics, your job is to redirect the conversation to a different topic. Here are a few phrases you can use. What was the best part of it? Was there a good part to that crisis? Did you have a deeper appreciation for life? What was the most positive thing you walked away from that experience feeling? Let me know if you'd like me to continue with the next chapter, Romantic Questions, Part 1. This response is AI generated for reference only. Continue excerpt 62, Romantic Questions, Part 1, Introduction. Chapter Romantic Questions, Part 1. We've talked about the importance of interrupting and initiating, the high program, the goodbye introduction. What's the story behind that? Situational flirting and deepening. Practicing each of these conversational tools will give you the power you need to initiate with women, to interrupt them on deeper and deeper levels, and to redirect their thoughts, and possibly their romantic attention, to you. Now you're ready to add another skill to the mix, asking romantic questions. Romantic questions build on the tools you already have to take your conversations with women to an even deeper and more seductive level. Before we can get into asking romantic questions, though, it's important for you to review the power of description, because description is the key that makes romantic questions work. Excerpt 63, The Power of Description. What does describe mean, and what does she feel? There is a fundamental concept that underlies everything romantic that you say to a woman. It is an idea about the way people's brains work, and it is very simple. When you describe something to somebody, she must go inside and imagine it or experience it so she can understand what you are talking about. The classic example of this phenomenon involves describing an elephant. It is huge, it has big white tusks, grey skin, a long trunk, and big floppy ears. In order to understand this description, you had to imagine what we were describing, at least to some extent. Even if you wanted to resist us and decided that no matter what you were not going to imagine an elephant, you'd still have to imagine one to know what you shouldn't imagine. This is a basic principle of how the mind works. If you describe something to someone, they automatically imagine it. This little quirk in the human mind really works in your favor when you talk to women, because it doesn't only work if you describe things like elephants, it also works if you describe experiences like love, romance, seduction, and arousal. If we were to describe an experience to you, you'd have to imagine having that experience, at least to some small extent, simply to understand what we were talking about. The extent to which you had that experience would depend on how well we described it. It's an involuntary reaction and everyone has it. This is your access into the emotional being of a woman. If you are talking to a woman and describing romantic experiences, erotic experiences, or emotional experiences, she is going to have to go into her mind and experience those experiences just to track with the conversation. When a woman has those feelings while she is looking at you, then you are having a romantic interaction. If you don't believe that describing an experience can influence feelings, look at it from the other side. No one would disagree that describing disgusting things has an effect on someone's internal emotional state. You don't want your dinner companion to describe creepy, slimy worms while you're eating spaghetti, because you naturally imagine worms and feel revolted by the plate of spaghetti in front of you. This mirrors the basic principle of seductive conversation. David, just last night I was doing some internet flirting. I was asking a woman about romantic experiences she had had, and out of the blue she started into this tirade about abortion and how bad abortion is and how she is totally against it. Now, one thing I could have done was fight with her about it, but already she was imaging all this horrible stuff about abortion in her head and feeling her feelings about it. Fighting would only have made it worse. I could also have asked her not to think about it, but she still would have had to imagine what she shouldn't be thinking about. So it might have made those horrible pictures she was imagining even more vivid. So I let her say what she had to say, and then I came back with, let's talk more about dating, let's talk more about romantic experiences, let's talk about how the heart opens up with someone who you really feel connected to. Those were the kind of experiences I wanted us to be talking about, so she would be having those romantic experiences inside and connect them to me, rather than having her think about abortion and connecting that to me. And it worked. She got off her abortion tirade, and we had a great romantic talk. You have probably been in an experience with a woman when it seemed like everything just went sour. You were getting along great, then suddenly there was a problem and you couldn't seem to fix it no matter what you did. If you were to look at a transcript of that conversation, you'd probably find that the conversation took a turn into something like rape, child abuse, abortion, or something else that she found really unpleasant. Her mind became filled with unpleasant pictures while she was interacting with you, and before you knew it, the romantic vibe was gone. You might even have caused the problem. Perhaps you talked about things you didn't even realize you were talking about. Perhaps you talked about porn or war or something else that when she imagined, it really turned her off. Sometimes it can be a lot subtler than you realize. With women, you really don't know what is going to happen. You have to stay awake, be present, and pay attention to the conversational topics that turn her on and the things that turn her off. We will get into the specifics of using romantic descriptions with women, but here's the bottom line about how we use them. Through talking, questioning, and listening, we look for things that women are passionate about and value. We then either get women to describe the feelings of those passions and values to us, or we describe them to the women. They are then able to experience and dwell on those feelings while being with us. This creates a very real and romantic connection. Success with women isn't totally about what you look like, what you do, or how much money you make, even though those things are obviously factors. Success with women is about how you make women feel. That's what's most important. If you make a woman feel excited, turned on, and appreciated, she's going to be a lot more likely to go for you. In the next few chapters, you will learn the specific flirting skills necessary to turn anything that a woman says into a romantic conversation. We mean it. If she tells you she's an accountant, you'll be able to turn that into a romantic conversation. The first step is understanding the structure of romantic questions. Excerpt 64. The structure of romantic questions. The structure of romantic questions are properly asked. A romantic question has three components: the excuse, the description, the question. Let's look at each part. The excuse. When you ask a woman a romantic question, you need to start with an excuse. The excuse answers the question the woman will be asking herself about your question, which is, why is he asking me this? If you can answer that question right away with your excuse, it will be much easier for her to open up to you. Most of the time, women you don't know well are going to ask themselves some combination of their safety questions when you first interrupt them, or when you take the conversation into deeper, riskier territory. Remember, these questions are, what is he going to do to me? How long will it take? And why is he saying this to me? When you ask a romantic question, the excuse answers the question, why is he saying this to me? It gives her a context for what you're asking, which helps a woman relax into the interaction. A romantic question, standing on its own, can seem invasive and scary, but when you add an excuse and description, almost any question can become palatable. Let's try this out on one of the tackiest questions you can ask a woman. Do you believe in love at first sight? You'll probably agree with us that most women would think of this as a hackneyed line, which it is. But let's see what happens when we add an excuse to it. Which question do you think would make it easier for a woman to relax and answer, hey, do you believe in love at first sight? Or, I've been talking to my friends about this and sort of taking an informal survey. Do you think people can fall in love at first sight? We aren't recommending such an overused line, but the second version of this question would be easier for a woman to answer. That's because it has an excuse attached to it. The woman can say to herself, oh, he's asking me this because he's been talking about it to his friends. Okay. The description. This part of a romantic question helps guide the woman to the kind of answer you are looking for. It also describes the kind of feelings you want her to imagine having while she is answering the question. Let's add a description to our test question. I've been talking to my friends about this and sort of taking an informal survey. It seems like sometimes you meet someone and there's just an immediate click. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's you, even though you've never met before. So I've been wondering, do you think people can fall in love at first sight? The description we added to this romantic question suggests the feeling you want your conversational partner to feel and also guides her toward the kind of answer you are looking for. Again, it's worth noting that even a tacky question can start seeming downright interesting when you add an excuse and description to it. The question. The question is simply the romantic question itself. In our example, do you think people can fall in love at first sight? Once again, let's look at the romantic question in its entirety. Notice how much more normal sounding and less tacky the question is when the excuse and description are in place. Then think about how well this would work with a question that hasn't already been beaten to death in every bar in Western civilization. I've been talking to my friends about this and sort of taking an informal survey. It seems like sometimes you meet someone and there's just an immediate click. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's you, even though you've never met before. So I've been wondering, do you think people can fall in love at first sight? Romantic questions push the conversation into a romantic direction. When you ask a romantic question, you are taking things to a more intimate level. You need to be respectful of that fact by setting up your questions in the most non-invasive way that you can. The way you do that is by having an excuse and a description before you ask your romantic question. Let's look at some examples. Excerpt 65, example 1, romantic question structure. Example 1, the romantic question. What makes your heart flutter? You don't just ask that question outright because it would sound awkward and weird. You dump her right into her safety questions. Why is he saying this to me? What's he going to do to me? So you needed to set up your question with our 3-step process. Here's the full way of asking it. I was thinking the other day about how amazing it is to be moved to the point where your heart flutters. Maybe you've seen a piece of artwork or heard some music and it's like the passion just builds in you and you feel it so intensely in your heart. I'd be curious to know what makes your heart flutter. What's an example in your life of that? Let's break that example down into the excuse, the description, and the question itself. The excuse. I was thinking the other day about how amazing it is to be moved to the point where your heart flutters. That answers the question, why is he asking me this? You were thinking about it the other day, that's why you're asking about it. The description. It's like the passion just builds in you and you feel it so intensely in your heart. You describe what you want her to experience, so she has to go inside and experience that description at least a little bit. This also guides her into the kind of answer you're looking for. The question. I'd be curious to know what makes your heart flutter. What's an example in your life of that? Now she knows why you asked. She's felt the feeling a little bit, and she's more likely to give you the kind of emotional, romantic answer you're looking for. Excerpt 66, Example 2, Romantic Question Structure. Example 2, the romantic question. Have you ever met someone and felt like you were meeting them again for the first time? Once again, you wouldn't just dump this question on someone without preparation. You might say, I was talking to some friends the other night over dinner and we were talking about the feeling of when you meet someone and feel like you've known them before. One person was really into the past life thing, and I wasn't sure what to think about that. I've certainly had those experiences where you meet someone and you look at them and you feel like you've known them before. It's like you're meeting them again rather than for the first time. Do you know what I mean? So, I'd be curious to know if you'd be willing to share about it. Have you ever met someone and felt like you've met them before? Let's break it apart. The excuse. I was talking to some friends the other night over dinner, and we were talking about the feeling of when you meet someone and feel like you've known them before. You were talking about it with friends the other night, so there's a reason it's on your mind. The description. One person was really into the past life thing, and I wasn't sure what to think about that. I've certainly had those experiences where you meet someone and you look at them and you feel like you've known them before. It's like you're meeting them again rather than for the first time. This description is great because it runs a little visualization on her and really paints a word picture of the kind of feeling you want her to experience as she looks at you. It will also guide her in selecting the kind of answer you're looking for. The question. Have you ever met someone and felt like you've met them before? When you put it this way, it doesn't sound like a corny pickup line, which it would if you asked it straight out. Asking in this way gives her the opportunity to share about herself and her experiences of feeling a real connection when first meeting someone, and to look at you while she describes and feels those feelings. Excerpt 67, Example. 3. Romantic question structure, Example. 3. The romantic question. What was it like the first time you had a crush on someone? This question asked by itself sounds ridiculous, but let's add an excuse and description and see how it sounds. I was talking to a buddy from high school who I hadn't seen in a long time. We were looking back
on high school and talking about first loves and crushes and how fun and exciting it was. It was this new, tender and exciting feeling of being so excited and turned on and really into someone, you know. I wonder if you can recall the first time you realized you had a crush on someone. What was that like for you? Let's break it down to the 3 parts. The excuse. I was talking to a buddy from high school who I hadn't seen in a long time. We were looking back on high school and talking about first loves and crushes and how fun and exciting it was. The description. It was this new, tender and exciting feeling of being so excited and turned on and really into someone, you know? The question. I wonder if you can recall the first time you realized you had a crush on someone. What was that like for you? Excerpt 68, example. 4. Romantic question structure. Example. 4. The romantic question. What's a special place you enjoy going to for vacation that makes
You feel really good and really alive. Obviously, you would not want to just throw that at a woman. You might say, I was watching TV the other night and I saw an ad for traveling to Jamaica. And I thought, oh gosh, that sounds like a really great time. I've never been there. It looks so great. The clear water, being able to see the fish under the water in a glass-bottom boat, or going snorkeling and having an incredible vacation. It got me thinking and asking people about their ideal vacation. So I'd be curious to know if you'd be willing to share. What's your ideal vacation? It can be one you've been on or maybe one you'd like to go on. I'd just be curious to know. Let's break it down. The excuse. I was watching TV the other night and I saw an ad for traveling to Jamaica and I thought, gosh, that sounds like a really great time. The description. I've never been there. It looks so great. The clear water, being able to see the fish
under the water in a glass-bottom boat, or going snorkeling and having an incredible vacation. It got me thinking and asking people about their ideal vacation. The question. So I'd be curious to know if you'd be willing to share. What's your ideal vacation? It can be one you've been on or maybe one you'd like to go on. I'd just be curious to know. Excerpt 69, example 5. Romantic question structure. Example 5. The romantic question. What's your favorite moment in a kiss? Asked to a woman what her favorite moment is in a kiss. Flat out, you'd come across as a real freak boy. Try this instead. I was talking to my friend Tanya the other day, and we were talking about kissing. We were talking about the magic of kissing and the magical moments that occur during a kiss. There is a moment when you close your eyes. There's the moment when your lips first touch. There is a moment when your tongues first entwine. It's all so amazing. I'd be curious to
know what's your favorite moment in a kiss. This is obviously a more intense question than the others. You are bringing up something very intimate and describing something that can lead directly to sex. But this is a good thing. If you've been doing the other flirting moves, she's already thinking of you as a possible romantic partner, and it's appropriate to heat things up a bit. This is a great way to do that. At the right moment, this question could really work for you. You might add in a whisper or get closer to her ear. It might turn into a very sensual moment. This might even turn into a kiss. Here are the 3 parts. The excuse. I was talking to my friend Tanya the other day and we were talking about kissing. We were talking about the magic of kissing and the magical moments that occur during a kiss. The description. There is a moment when you close your eyes. There's the moment when your lips first touch. There is a moment when your tongues first entwine. It's all so amazing. The question. I'd be curious to know, what's your favorite moment in a kiss? Excerpt 70, example 6, romantic question structure. Example 6, the romantic question. What are some of your favorite romantic movies? Most guys are not particularly into romantic movies, but it's good to ask a woman about them because her answer to this question can tell you a lot about how she likes to be seduced. It'll provide information you will find useful on dates with her. It'll also get her describing and feeling some of her favorite romantic feelings while looking at you. So here's what you might ask. I am usually into action films myself, but lately I've been looking at some more romantic films. Sometimes I see movies that have such a romantic feel to them. They have such sweet, strong romantic moments in them. A couple is being swept off their feet, falling deeply in love. like a Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn sort of moment. I'd be curious to know if you'd be willing to share. If you were going to recommend a romantic film to me, what would it be? The three parts, the excuse. I am usually into action films myself, but lately I've been looking at some more romantic films. The description. Sometimes I see movies that have such a romantic feel to them. They have such sweet, strong, romantic moments in them. A couple is being swept off their feet, falling deeply in love, like a Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn sort of moment. The question. I'd be curious to know if you'd be willing to share. If you were going to recommend a romantic film to me, what would it be? Excerpt 71 example. 7. Romantic question structure. Example. 7. The romantic question, what was your first kiss like? Put it this way. I've been asking my friends this question lately, and it really seems to generate some pretty interesting conversations. Everybody has a first kiss story. That feeling of doing something so romantic for the first time can really be so incredibly moving. So I'm wondering if you would care to share, what was your first kiss like? The three parts of this question. The excuse. I've been asking my friends this question lately, and it really seems to generate some pretty interesting conversations. The description. Everybody has a first kiss story. That feeling of doing something so romantic for the first time can really be so incredibly moving. The question. So I'm wondering if you would care to share, what was your first kiss like? Is this whole romantic question sequence starting to make sense to you? There's some subtlety to it, but it's not rocket science or brain surgery or, as one of our students called it, rocket surgery. You are not just hitting on someone, you are developing a connection with her. You are creating a connection based on things she cares about, things she has passion about. Let me know if you would like me to continue with the common questions section and the rest of the chapter. This response is AI generated for reference only. Continue. Excerpt 72. Common questions about using romantic questions. Common questions about using romantic questions. Here are some of the most common questions men have about using romantic questions. Question. How intimate should the questions be? Answer. As you've no doubt noticed, the questions vary in intensity from relatively low-risk questions like, what's a special place you enjoy going to for vacation? To relatively high-risk questions like, what's your favorite moment in a kiss? As you learn to improvise these questions, you'll come up with ones that are even milder and others that are even riskier. You decide how intimate a question to ask by assessing two things: how things are going with the woman and the level of risk you want to take. Most of the time, you'll want to start with the lower risk questions and, as that goes well, move up to the higher risk questions. If you're feeling especially ballsy, you can move up to the higher risk questions faster. If you ask them with a sense of certainty that everything is okay, then things will probably go fine. You can tell that you are risking too much if you find yourself leaving out the excuse and description parts of the romantic question. When guys get tense, they tend to leave out the excuse and the description and just go to the question. If that happens to you, you need to slow down, take some deep breaths, and ask a lower risk question. Question. What should I do if she asks me the romantic question back? Answer. This happens all the time, and you should be ready for it. For instance, if you ask a woman, what is your idea of a really romantic date? And she answers you and asks you the same question back, you need to answer her. Simply describe a date that sounds really romantic to you. There's no big trick to it, just talk
about a situation that sounds romantic to you. If you can use your words to paint a picture for the two of you together, that's good. If your description is similar to her idea of a romantic date, even better. Obviously, you will want to speak from the romancer part of yourself when you answer this question. If she describes her ideal romantic date as an evening by the seashore, just her and her lover eating lobster and drinking fine wine, You won't want to respond by telling her that your ideal romantic date is an evening drinking beer at the Demolition Derby, followed by a night of hot sex with your favorite penthouse centerfold. Get into the spirit of the thing and describe something romantic that she would also enjoy. Question: won't showing my romantic interest be embarrassing for us both? Answer is, it's true that if you use romantic questions properly, she'll know you're interested in her romantically. However, because you're approaching the seduction in such a romantic, non-slimy way, she's very likely to think that your desire for her is a very good thing rather than a creepy thing she needs to get away from. Asking romantic questions is also great because you can start with the less risky, less obvious ones and work your way up to the more intense ones. If she balks on the less risky ones and seems uncomfortable, you know not to go on to the more intense questions until you get better results with those less risky questions. In this way, you can find out her level of interest step by step without risking making things really weird for you both by asking something too intense out of the blue. Question: how often should I ask romantic questions during an interaction with a woman? Answer: you'll see examples of how we use romantic questions in the dialogues that are coming up in this book, but the short answer is this: pepper them in. Romantic questions are not the sole focus of your discussion. You talk about the weather, the news, you do some of the flirting moves, ask her about her job, and throw in romantic questions. If you pepper them in, it will feel natural. Asking too many romantic questions is not the problem most of our students have. The first problem most of our students have is not asking romantic questions at all. The second problem most of our students have is dropping out the excuse and the description and just asking the question part of the romantic question. The last and certainly the least problem our students have is asking too many romantic questions. Having said that, it will probably feel awkward the first few times you ask one of these questions. As you practice, you may leave some interactions with women feeling as if you asked too many romantic questions or worrying that you overwhelmed her with them. That's okay. It's part of the learning process. Overdoing it once or twice is invaluable to your learning how to use romantic questions. And don't worry, it won't hurt her if you won't ask too many romantic questions. She's made of tougher stuff than that. Question: how should I get started with romantic questions? Answer: first, choose one or two romantic questions and learn them by heart. Remember, that means you have to learn all three parts of the question: the excuse, the description, and the question itself. Second, practice speaking the entire romantic question out loud. When you're alone at home or in your car or getting ready to go to work in the morning, speak your romantic questions. This gets your body used to saying the questions, which is, of course, what you're going to end up doing. When you are in front of a woman, it does you no good to be great at saying the romantic questions silently in your own mind. You need to be able to speak the question, and that is why you practice it out loud. Third, try it out with a woman. Perhaps you meet a woman at a coffee shop and you've said hi, done some of the flirting moves like smiling, holding eye contact and winking at her, all perhaps in the context of doing some situational flirting. Perhaps you've asked her, what's the story behind that, about her necklace, and that's generated some sharing conversations. Things are going well. Then ask your romantic question. Make your excuse, give your description, and ask away. Voila! Question: should I learn these questions by heart or improvise them on the spot? Answer: at first you will want to learn one or two romantic questions by heart and try them out with women to see what kind of conversations and romantic feelings that they spark. As you get more experience, you'll find that it's natural to improvise the questions or parts of the questions. At first, you will probably find it is most natural to improvise new excuses and descriptions to go with the romantic questions you intend to ask. In time, you'll be able to improvise the questions too.
As you relax more with a woman, you'll be able to get curious about her and about her life. Your curiosity about her will guide you in spontaneously creating new romantic questions that are well suited for her. Excerpt 73, Conclusion on Romantic Questions, Part 1, Conclusion. As we'll see in the next chapter, asking romantic questions leads naturally to asking her for her phone number and email address. Asking romantic questions naturally segues into both of you wanting to have a date. Asking romantic questions naturally segues into having a woman think of you in romantic terms. On your dates, you can ask romantic questions to deepen into the feelings of romance. Romantic questions often lead to great opportunities for the first kiss. You can ask romantic questions before the date, on the date, and whenever you can get them in. You can ask romantic questions online, in a first meeting, anywhere. Romantic questions are an important part of your seduction toolbox. The more familiar you are with this skill and the more comfortable you are with it, and the more often you'll be able to use it to your advantage. The cool part about asking romantic questions is that, once again, it's not about bamboozling, hypnotizing, tricking, or scamming on women. Romantic questions are a way for you to authentically learn about a woman, to get into her world and to make a real connection. When you ask a romantic question, you give a woman a gift, and in the process, find out what kind of connection can exist between the two of you. Excerpt 74, Romantic Questions, Part 2, Real Examples. Chapter, Romantic Questions, Part 2. Let's look at some real examples of romantic conversations with women. For each one of these examples, we'll give you the dialogue and break in occasionally with some play-by-play so you can know what was going on in our minds as we were conducting these conversations. As you read these dialogues, remember, you are only getting the text of the conversations. You aren't getting the unspoken social cues that go along with them, so let's bring you up to speed. During all of these conversations, we are smiling and our voices are friendly. Sometimes in these dialogues, we may say things that would seem confrontational if they were said in an angry or harsh manner. But they're fine here because our manner is light and playful. For instance, at one point, Ron says to a woman, "So you can relate to the woman who was married, yet she was sleeping with somebody else?" As you'll see in the dialogue below, the woman Ron was talking to didn't take what he said the wrong way. That was because he was smiling, they were having a good time together, and it was clear to her that he was joking with her, not insulting her. Excerpt 75, Example 1, Romantic Question with Terry. What is the most special moment on a date? In this example, Ron is going to talk to Terry and ask her the romantic question, what is it like when you feel very special on a date? Here it is. Ron, I was talking to some friends of mine last night about this, and we were wondering, sometimes it seems like a date is really going great, there's great flow and things seem to really be cooking, and you feel incredibly special. So I was wondering, what is it like when you feel very special on a date? Terry, when I am the focus, when I am included in the conversation. I was just on a date last week, and it was wonderful because the gentleman leaned forward on the table when he was talking to me, and I knew there was interest. It was very clear. Ron, okay, cool. So you are the kind of woman who likes it when a guy takes charge of the conversation, yet includes you? Terry, oh yes, absolutely. Ron, so you want him to say things like, you look beautiful, or, you know, I can't wait to, or, I would love to kiss you, that sort of thing? Terry, yes, the attention and the openness. I want men who don't just question me, but who are willing to share about themselves too. Let's break in here and take a look at our story so far. Ron is really doing well with Terry. He got the question out and she's really giving him some information. As you read this, you should be asking yourself, what is Terry revealing about herself that might help in the seduction? Ron has learned that she is really turned on by a guy leaning forward on the table, so he puts that data point into his mind and he'll use that later. He'll lean forward and show interest as soon as he can. Let's look at some more of the conversation. Terry, do you have any questions for me? Ron, yes. Why are you here? Terry, why am I here on Earth? Ron, I mean at this place at this time. Terry, to be with you. Why else would I be here? Ron, but we just met. Terry, well, I believe that things happen for a reason. Don't you think that's true? Ron, yes. Terry, so I think this was a good thing that we are meeting and talking, and I think maybe it was meant to be. So from where I am sitting,
Maybe we could talk again. I would love to call you and go out for coffee and just have the fun continue, because I would hate for this to be a one-time thing. Ron, all right, do you want my number? Terry, yes, would you like to write it on my hand or write it on my stomach? Ron, well, I think you can memorize if you're really paying attention. Laughs. Terry, I am, but perhaps I should write it down too, just to be sure. Let's tear apart the second half of this interaction. She says she wants guys who will share about themselves, so he asks her, do you have any questions for me? To show her that he is open to sharing about himself. She came back with a silly question. What are you doing here? Very often when a woman does something like this, it's an invitation to be silly, an invitation to play together in some way. Ron picked up on that and was able to play with what she said. He made a joke and it went over well. He was willing to just open up his mouth and say,
whatever came out, and have it be all right. Remember what we've said before. Women are looking to you to see how well the interaction is going. If you seem confident about it, if you seem playful, and if you don't seem worried, then most of the time she is going to be okay too. Ron, in the end, it seemed really natural to ask for the phone number. I mean, it was true, we were having a good time and I did want to get to know her better, so I asked her if she would like to go out. It wasn't forced. It felt natural. So often our students worry too much during flirting interactions. They seem to think, well, I want to do it perfectly, so every word needs to line up with every other word and it has to be exactly right. That simply isn't true. As you read these flirting interactions, we hope you're starting to understand that flirting is not a matter of doing it perfectly. It's a matter of showing up, risking, being curious, committing yourself to being a source of certainty that it's going to be okay and having some fun with it. You'll see again and again that we haven't rewritten these flirting dialogues to make them letter perfect, because that's not how life is, and you shouldn't get the idea that it ever goes perfectly. You'll see that it's not necessary for romantic conversations to be perfect for flirting and seduction to work. As you practiced, you'll have more fun and you will be a lot more seductive. Excerpt 76, Example 2, Romantic Question with Terry. Again, what kind of adventure would be fun? In this example, Ron is going to talk to Terry again. In this conversation, he's going to ask the romantic question, what kind of adventure would be fun? Notice how this question opens her up. It is not necessarily something that is going to make her melt with romantic feelings, like a question about her most romantic date might, but it is also low risk and effective. Here it is. Ron, it sounds like you also value fun. Terry, yes. Ron, I've been thinking about the places that I like to go for adventures. You know, the kind of places where you can go and it's really special, fun, exciting, and away from your normal daily life. So if I was taking you out, what kind of an adventure would be really fun for you? Would it be a day trip together? Terry, yes, a day trip outside or a drive somewhere in the country or a hike in some woods, somewhere there is a nice view, you know. And we could sit on the hillside in the sun and listen to the wind through the tall grass or leaves. Ron, wow, that sounds great. Have you done any hiking in the mountains? Or has it been more around here? Terry, I've hiked in Hawaii and Alaska, but most of my hiking has been in Wisconsin. There are no mountains here. Ron, so traveling is a great passion of yours, is it? Like seeing new places and going to new, exciting outdoor places like in Alaska? Terry. Yes, I spent 3 weeks in Alaska. Ron. Wow, what was that like? Terry. It was great, just driving around camping in the different parts of the state. I took a train from Anchorage to Fairbanks, and that was a wonderful experience, just seeing the middle of the wilderness from the window of a train. Ron. I don't get to meet women very often who have taken on life at that kind of level. It's really cool that you went there. How long were you in Alaska? Terry. I was there for about 3 months. Ron. Wow, 3 months in Alaska? That's a long time. You also said that you have a Celtic ring? Terry. It's a Celtic symbol of an eternal knot. Ron. An eternal knot? Let me see that for a second. He reaches over and touches the ring. This is a cool ring. Where else do you like to travel? Terry. Do you like to travel? Ron. Yes, I do, although I rarely go places as unusual as Alaska. It's amazing when you travel. You get to see new things and experience a new culture. When you travel, you get to let different parts of yourself come out. Do you know what I mean? Terry. Yes, that's one of the main reasons I love to see new places. Ron. I would be interested to know what part of your trip touched your heart the most. Terry. The way people were welcoming to me and let me into their homes. It is not something that you see every day. My favorite part of the trip was meeting new people. I made a lot of special connections. Ron, did you have any experiences that kind of just stick in your heart? Do you recall experiences that are postcard moments that you'll remember for the rest of your life? I'd be curious to know if you had experiences and moments like that. Terry. Well, it's not something I care to think about often, but there was a really bad storm and there was a mudslide that we somehow escaped. That part of the trip sticks out in my mind. Irina, was there a good part to that crisis? Like feeling that you have a deeper appreciation for life? What was the most positive thing you walked away from that experience? Feeling? Terry. Surviving the mudslide made me appreciate life a lot more. At the same time, I felt proud of myself for surviving such a scary experience and challenging myself. I really like pushing myself and putting myself out there. I'm glad I had such an intense experience in Alaska. Ron, I can see in talking with you that you really push yourself and live life on the edge. It seems like you're someone who is strong in the face of uncertainty. I really admire how you live life fully. Terry, it's been great to meet you, but I need to run in a second. Maybe we could get together for a cup of coffee sometime and talk some more. Ron, sure, that would be great. Maybe you could tell me about your travel experiences. Terry, what is your phone number and email address? It would be great to go out sometime this week. Katie, here, I'll write down my number and email. Ron, when Katie mentioned that she tries to be friendly when she's out shopping and running errands, I thought that was a good segue to asking her out. I wanted to end the conversation on a high point. I thought that if she wasn't willing to go out with me after talking for so long, it was unlikely that she'd give me her number if we talked any longer. Here's a good phrase to use when asking a woman for her number. It's been nice talking to you. Perhaps we can get together sometime and talk about this some more. You don't need anything fancy or special. You don't need a perfect line. You just need to open your mouth and ask her out. After you have her phone number or email address, you can set up the coffee date. Excerpt 77, Example 3, Romantic Question with Ursula. What's a totally carefree experience for you? This time the romantic question is, what's a totally carefree experience for you? Ron, I was at a dinner party a couple days ago and there were a lot of people and we started talking about moments when people felt carefree with someone of the opposite sex. And this woman was talking about what it is like when she is on a date and how she feels free to just be herself, to maybe kiss a guy out of the blue or to say whatever it is she wants to say. I'd be curious to know if you care to share. What's a totally carefree experience for you? Ursula. Making love. Ron: Wow, great. That's what I like to hear. Ursula: Well, really, it is just a very free experience with somebody, with someone who enjoys it. Ron: Someone like me? Ursula: Someone who enjoys it. Ron: I enjoy it. Ron Louis enjoys it. Ursula: Someone who fully enjoys it with me and who is really with me. Because some people have sex and they are not really with you, but there is this other thing where you're really tuned into each other and you are totally communicating with your entire body, including your eyes and speaking and everything, and you are using every one of your physical senses with the other person. It is just like nirvana to me. I just think it is nirvana. Have you experienced that? Ron: I have too. I mean, that is the one time I really feel really carefree, when I am with a man I love. This is a good example of being playful with a woman, being sexy and having fun. You can tell Ron is not going to end up just a friend with this woman. Ron: I was shocked with the answer she gave me to the question. I had no idea that she was going to respond with something so sexual. I remember saying to myself, I can't believe she is saying this. So I was shocked about that. And that added to the fun of it. So of course, you're going to get a wide variety of responses from women. Some women will be this responsive, some will be totally unresponsive. This is the great thing about having a high level of throughput with women and having a lot of women in your system. When your numbers are good and you know how to talk to women, you'll be able to find and focus on the ones who are the most responsive, which makes everything in the seduction a lot easier. When you find the ones that are that responsive, you go for them and you let go of the ones who are resistant. Excerpt 78, Example 4, Romantic Question with Carol. What are moments of intense passion and connection? In this example, notice how David gets curious about what the woman is saying, how he gets playful, and how he asks questions to take the interaction further. David: I've been sort of conducting an informal survey about this, and it's led to some pretty interesting conversations. For whatever reason, there are times when you feel really connected to someone else. It may not be sexual, it could be anywhere, but you just, for whatever reason, feel really connected and really passionate. So I'd like to ask you, what are some moments in your life where you feel intensely passionate and really connected to somebody else? Carol: I just love it when you are having a really deep conversation with somebody and everything else tunes out. I mean, it can happen at a party, for instance. There can be all kinds of people around you and noise, or it could be just the two of you alone. The important thing is the two of you are having this conversation and suddenly everything else tunes out. David: Does that happen often for you? Carol: Not really. David: It's happening right now, isn't it? Carol laughs. I just love that when you're really communicating with somebody and you're getting into the conversation and it just goes deeper and deeper and you are really talking heart to heart and you feel completely with the other person, inside the other person. And again, it is just that great thing where all of a sudden everybody else at the party just disappears and just the two of you are suddenly there by yourself, even though there is this big bunch of noise going on around you. It's like all of a sudden it's very quiet. David: Very cool. Carol: Yes, and that is just an ideal kind of thing to have in a relationship. This went really great. This woman is very responsive. Carol described the kind of moment where she was able to feel passionately connected, and it was fun, and it created a great romantic feeling between the two of them. She also gave David some great information. She kept emphasizing the importance of a man being with her. David will be able to use this information in building a connection with her, and use that phrase when he describes that experience to her. He can tell her how important it is for him to feel like he is with her, and more importantly, can prove that by creating a connection where she really feels like he is with her. Excerpt 79, Example 5, Romantic Question. With Sue about romantic movies, what are your favorite romantic movies? Now, Ron is going to ask Sue about romantic movies. Notice how he structures the question with the excuse and the description. At this point, they have been having a romantic conversation for a while, and she is pretty lit up. She is very responsive and obviously likes him. There is definitely a sexual vibe. He has done all of the things to take himself out of the friend category. Ron, I watch a lot of movies. I am kind of a movie buff. Sue, me too. Ron, I'm curious about what women feel are romantic movies, romantic characters or situations they feel are romantic, because all women seem to have a different definition of romance. Sue, really? Ron, some women like it when a guy's a great dancer. Some like it when a guy's a great father. You never know what a woman will find romantic in a movie. So I would be curious to know, what are some of your favorite romantic movies? Sue, one that comes to mind is The English Patient. Ron, oh yes. Sue, and that was very romantic. Another is When Harry Met Sally. Ron, classic. What do you like about those movies? Sue, I love the chemistry between the characters, the tension, the way they look at each other. It's like you can feel the electricity.
Ron, that's a great way to put it. I can see you're a woman who appreciates those intense, electric moments. Have you ever experienced anything like that in real life? Sue smiles. Maybe once or twice? Ron, well, I hope we can create some of that electricity between us. I'd love to take you to a movie sometime and see if we can generate some sparks of our own. Sue, I'd like that. Ron, great. Let's exchange numbers and set something up. This interaction flowed smoothly from a simple question about movies into a direct, romantic invitation. By the time Ron asked for her number, it felt like a natural next step. Excerpt 80. Conclusion on Romantic Questions, Part 2. Conclusion. These examples show how romantic questions can be seamlessly integrated into your conversations with women. They are not standalone tricks, but tools that help you explore a woman's inner world, validate her feelings, and create a romantic connection. Remember to always start with an excuse. Follow with a description that evokes feeling. Ask the question with confidence and curiosity. Listen actively to her response and build on it. Use the information she gives you to deepen the connection and guide the interaction toward a date. In the next chapter, we'll cover final tips and strategies for putting all these skills together and creating lasting success with women. Let me know if you'd like me to continue with the final chapter of the book. Continue Excerpt 81, final chapter, Putting It All Together. Chapter, Putting It All Together. Now that you've learned all the core skills, interrupting and initiating, saying hi, the goodbye introduction, situational flirting, deepening, romantic questions, and the romantic moves, it's time to put them all together into a seamless, natural approach to meeting and attracting women. This final chapter is about integration, mindset, and long-term success. You'll learn how to flow from one skill to the next, how to handle real-world challenges and setbacks, how to cultivate the mindset of a successful seducer, how to keep improving and having fun. Excerpt 82, The Natural Flow of an Interaction. The natural flow of an interaction. A typical interaction might unfold like this. Initiate. You see a woman you're attracted to. You walk over, smile and say hi. Or if you're leaving, you use the goodbye introduction. Build rapport. You use situational flirting to create a fun, playful vibe. You ask what's the story behind that to get her talking about something personal. Deepen the connection. You ask deepening questions to learn what she's passionate about. You listen, reflect back, and validate her. You pepper in romantic moves, holding eye contact, winking, complimenting her. Introduce romance. You ask a romantic question structured with an excuse and description to shift the conversation into a more intimate, romantic direction. Escalate and close based on her responsiveness.
You gently escalate, touching her hand, lowering your voice, leaning in. You ask for her contact information or suggest a specific date idea. Exit on a high note. You end the interaction while it's still fun and positive, leaving her wanting more. This flow isn't rigid. Sometimes you'll jump straight to deepening. Sometimes romantic questions come early. The key is to be present, read her signals, and adapt. Excerpt 83, Handling Challenges and Setbacks. Handling challenges and setbacks. No matter how skilled you become, not every interaction will go perfectly. Here's how to handle common challenges. She's not responsive. If she gives short answers, doesn't smile, or seems distracted, she may not be interested. That's okay. Thank her for her time, gracefully exit, and move on. Remember, dating is a numbers game. You get nervous. It's normal. Use the anxiety management tools. Breathe deeply, visualize success, recall a time you felt powerful. Sometimes admitting you're nervous can be charming. Wow, I'm actually a little nervous talking to you because you're so pretty. Said with a smile, it shows vulnerability and confidence. The conversation stalls. Have a few backup questions or topics ready. You can always ask about her interests, travel, favorite movies, or current events. Use situational flirting to inject humor and playfulness. She tests you. Women sometimes test men to see if they're confident and authentic. If she challenges you or throws a curveball, stay calm, smile, and respond with playfulness or humor. Don't get defensive. You get rejected. It happens. Use the rejection process. Remind yourself it's a numbers game. Come up with an explanation that's about her, not you, and redirect your energy. Every no brings you closer to a yes. Excerpt 84. Cultivating the mindset of a seducer. Cultivating the mindset of a seducer. Techniques are important, but mindset is everything. A successful seducer has abundance mentality. There are many attractive, interesting women in the world. No single interaction is life or death. This takes the pressure off and makes you more attractive. Outcome independence. Your worth isn't tied to whether a particular woman likes you. You approach because you want to, not because you need validation, curiosity, and presence. You're genuinely curious about women as people. You listen, observe, and engage fully in the moment. Resilience. You see setbacks as learning experiences, not failures. You keep going, keep improving, and keep having fun. Authenticity. You don't pretend to be someone you're not. You express your true personality, humor, and romantic interest in a respectful way. Excerpt 85. Long-term improvement and fun. Long-term improvement and fun. Becoming great with women is a journey, not a destination. Here's how to keep improving and enjoying the process. Practice consistently. Use the HIGH program daily. Talk to women everywhere, coffee shops, bookstores, parks, social events. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Review and refine. After interactions, ask yourself what went well and what could be improved. Be kind to yourself. Focus on progress, not perfection. Expand your social circle. Join clubs, take classes, attend events. The more social you are, the more opportunities you'll have to meet women in low-pressure settings. Work on yourself. Attraction starts with you. Exercise, dress well, pursue your passions, develop your career. A confident, fulfilled man is inherently attractive. Have fun. Dating and flirting should be enjoyable. If you're not having fun, neither is she. Focus on creating positive, memorable experiences for both of you.